StreamYard.
Yep.
All right.
And hey, everybody, what's up? Todd, or AKA Wardrobe, and Ty, AKA is here with us. Oh, look at there.
Don't 30 seconds in, and Mitch is already hassling us.
Yep, he's not going to jump on there. Hold on. There we go. Sorry, everybody. You could hear my YouTube playing. This is the kind of professional thing. Tomicus, what's up, man? I don't know, John, if you're still on. There's Mitch Land, world famous designer, developer, Mitch Land. Thank you. He is an honorary creator, and he can join us if he wants, but he's probably wise and will stay off so he can drink and have fun outside or something. Okay, hey, everybody. This is Ty. This is the first time Ty's been on my channel. This is pretty cool. Ty and I have known each other for a while and played some games back and forth a little bit, and we're here to talk about a game that we played for a convention game, Operation Mercury, GTS, by MMP. Let me show you real quick here. Boom, this is the box. Nice, big, thick, beastie boy. And but before we do that, we're going to give our little 30-second, hey, Perry, what's up? Do our little 30-second break here to get people here, and we'll be right back. All right, all. So Ty and myself and 4 other guys, Rich and Matt, who were with Ty on the German side, and myself, Toby and Chris, gathered together and to play pretty much the full campaign game of Operation Mercury. And we'll get in a little bit more details. So what we're going to do tonight is just kind of talk about what we thought about the overall game, the campaign experience, maybe things we do differently. Some of the other guys might join us. I don't know. I gave them the link, and we'll see. But we did get some thoughts from them about it, and maybe what we do different if we do this particular campaign again. And some maybe thoughts about, I don't know. I can't really talk on what the other guys did, but I definitely have some questions and thoughts about what I may have did incorrectly or correctly during the game, and we'll answer any questions we can. So Ty, maybe real briefly, since this is your first time on the channel, maybe just real brief, your gaming history, and then maybe just a little bit about GTS and why you're that.
Why I am the way I am about GTS.
Well, no, I want to know why you are the way you are, period, and then
you need a longer show.
Well, we can go for a long time. But anyway, so gaming. How'd you get?
Yeah.
What's your gaming history?
I haven't done this in a while. I haven't done my gaming background in a while. I mean, growing up, I was a role player. And then at some point, I think I was reading a lot of Tom Clancy in the early 80s, and then jumped into Harpoon and Assault. And so that was my early teens.
Oh, I don't know Assault.
It's another GDW game. Okay. Frank Chadwick. Platoon level, World War III kind of stuff.
Okay.
Definitely over my head at the age, probably even today, still over my head.
Yeah.
But I'm turning like a lot of people, college, late high school, got away from gaming, and then got back into it maybe 15 years ago. And it was a jump from Memoir 44 to Conflict of Heroes to GTS before I kind of landed. And I play other games too, but as far as GTS goes, shortly after.
Say that progression again.
Memoir 44, and then Conflict of Heroes. And then, so Memoir 44, I used to run games at a local shop, the Big Overlord.
Oh, yeah. Those are great. That's a great way to play that stuff.
Yeah, it was fun. And that's where I first learned about Market Garden. And I fell in love with Market Garden as an operation.
Oh, okay.
And I said, hey, I need more. I need more game. I need more detail. And so then I started looking around, and I think Conflict of Heroes was the hotness at the time. It's not a market guarding game, but was that, there's a complexity and detail, and was a nice jump up. And then shortly thereafter, GTS kind of hit the scene with the market guarding games. And so,
okay, so you were there right kind of at the beginning of those games.
Yeah, maybe not right. I mean, I missed the first release of Devil's Cauldron.
Okay.
Picked up Where Eagles Dare. It sat on my shelf for about a year, and then got into it and fell in love with it. Where Eagles Dare is still my favorite war game. Just flat out, any war game I played. There's a lot to that. A lot behind that reasoning. But yeah, I mean, I've been not solely a GTS, but a GTS fan since then. Full stop. No qualms about it. It's not a perfect system. Not a perfect set of games, and I don't want to suggest otherwise. But it scratches a lot of the things that I look for, a lot of itches that I have, the way I like to play, and the way that I like to experience an operation. It really does it for me. So that was it, and play tested a few games in the series. Helped out with the Vassal module. Wrote and edited for the GTS magazine that came out. Was that late last year? Yeah. I don't think the best burn. Yeah, exactly. The best burn of all at the con. Perhaps the best gaming burn that I've ever experienced was over the magazine and my article. But anyway, so I'm a GTS fan through and through. Utah is a couple weeks away. I'm excited about that.
Yeah,
there's a lot of love from the designer in the game, and it's one of those kind of side series. Doesn't have as many players and games as BCS or OCS, but it's still in the stable, and games come out occasionally, and they're Joe Chacon, who designed Operation Mercury, and Tom Holliday, who did Utah, are great designers, and they care about the system, and they care about their products and their designs, and so it comes through, and glad to support them.
Joe also did this one.
Yeah, Joe did Race for Bastogne. He did Operation Mercury. He did Strike Counter-Strike, was in the magazine. What else is in this series? No Question of Surrender was Nick Richardson. Yep. And then you had the games from 3 games from Adam Starkweather. The market guarding games, and the first Greatest Day Sword Juno Gold that we played last year at the con.
Yeah. Real quick, I have another question about GTS, and we'll kind of move on. But I just want to say, hey, Richard, you're on. Good to see you. Brian, it's been a while. Good to see you. Hex Tex is on here. Nordic, we're not talking C. You can talk to Andrew about that stuff. Tony, good to see you. Tony's Board Life is on here. Tony played that Sword Greatest Day with us last year, as did Mitch. He did. I think so. Rich also played that, and Toby played it. I think. I don't think Chris
was it 5 of us? I think no. But Toby was in it too. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Toby was there, and then Chris, I think, played something else, and he joined us too.
And we played one great day, and so.
That was one day.
Yeah, many of the big games like Utah, Sword Juno Gold, Cauldron, and does Where Eagles Dare have it? I can't remember. Many of the games will have there's the full campaign, which may be a week long of game time. But many of them will have, the first day, when not all the exciting stuff, but many of the exciting things happen.
Yeah. Well, it's the landings and all that. And that's a lot to do there, in that clearing the beaches and all that. So real quick. So Mitch, I just like to say hi to everybody. Oh, Walkabout's on here. It's good. Got some Canadians, Brian and Chris there. Good. And not chatting amongst themselves. Perfect. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. Okay, good. Yep. Keep talking about yourself, guys. If you have any questions, I'll shout it out and we'll get to it. Hey, I did.
Brian asked about Joe and Devil's Cauldron. And yeah, Joe is said that he's working on the 1.0 to 2.0 conversion for Devil's Cauldron. That thing's been up on pre-order for a while. It was going to be a 1.0 straight reprint. Then they started to do a 2.0 conversion. Then I think that got abandoned. And then Joe's picked it up. I guess he was working on a Guadalcanal game and kind of put that aside to pick this up. So we'll see how that goes.
There's another GTS player, Wise Guy History, Nathan from Down Under. He played kind of taught me. We played To the Beach, which was the 21st Panzer counterattacking up to retake some of the beach hex. It's one of the introductory scenarios or intermediate scenarios in Utah. And we played it, and he was patient and told me stuff. And I left that game just going, holy mackerel, man, there's too much to think about here. And not until I played that game last year with these guys, because it was repetitive and a lot. So Nathan was one of the reasons I have had a successful GTS journey. I just had a little bit of a gap there, but
yeah, I think he's got a lot of Mercury videos too that I've seen. So
yeah, Nathan's really good about getting games played. Yeah, Nordic. You should give it a shot. Nordic is Crete the only game you have, the only GTS game you have? Just curious. Okay, one thing I want to ask about your past or kind of your interest in GTS, and then we'll move on to the actual game we played. You said it like you like the way it. What did you say that?
It scratches a lot of itches.
Scratches a lot of itches, but yeah, I don't want to talk about your rashes right now. That's another video. I want to talk about your. Sorry, so hilarious.
We did spend a whole week together.
Well, yeah, I guess it's my fault. The itches and scratches, but you said you like the way to explore, the way it simulates the level and get you involved. So what do you like? I mean, what do you? Because I know you're always looking for that tactical game. You're kind of always looking for other games, but this seems to be.
Yeah. So I mean, so the Grand Tactical Series. I mean, it's a lot of it's in the name, right? I mean, it's grand. So I want to play a game that covers a whole operation, right? I want to play all of Market Garden. I want to play all of D-Day. I want to play all of Crete, right? And so I know a lot of people will buy the games in the series and they'll ask questions about, hey, how many one map campaigns there are scenarios are there? Or will this fit on my table? And I mean, I get that desire, but really for me, the series shines on the grand scale, the full monster map.
Yeah.
And so it kind of starts there. It's like, can I play all of Market Garden? Yes, you can. Or
interesting.
First, I guess the scenario is a week long, or the campaign game's a week long for that. I think it's 8 or 9 days for Crete, but they're all about 6, 7, 8, 9 days for the campaigns for most of the games. But then I also want to feel like I'm actually playing the operation. So I got to have some level of detail. And so, you can't play, or you could, but it'd be insane to try to play all of Market Garden or all of Crete at, what was the one you brought? You brought a TCS game?
I didn't bring TCS, but yeah, someone has TCS there where everything's a platoon.
You brought
ASL.
a ASL map, right?
Yeah, it was the Malim airfield only.
Yeah, so you can, I mean, something that tactical for the whole operation would be obviously unwieldy.
Yeah,
probably. But I want a level of detail that I can't get in, let's say, Simonich's, 44 games or 4X games. Great games. But if I look at his Holland, Holland 44 game, great game, but Arnhem is just a hex or two, right? Nijmegen is a hex or two, and that's just a different scale, and I get that, but I lose some of the feeling. I'm not fighting over a bridge. Some of the historical elements, one of the great things about GTS also is that because of the way the core rules and the exclusive rules for each game is set up, the designers have the opportunity to introduce, I'll call them historical touches. You can call it Chrome, right? But if you want to add something that was there in history, there's enough granularity. There's enough, it's tactical enough to introduce some of those elements. And sometimes, honestly, some of those touches aren't great, or maybe don't add a lot, but the fact that they're there, really, really matters to me in the experience. I mean, one of the things I really like to do is if I read a book on a operation, is then to go in and be able to pull out those things and feel like, because reading in this case for World War II is the closest that I can get to the history. It's in a way, the history comes alive in the game, I guess is the simple way to say it. But
yep.
I don't get that at a higher level with, again, like the Simonich game. His is the first one that comes to mind, who's got a lot of great series, great rules, well-regarded games, but not what I always am looking for. And then too tactical, especially, you get into geomorph maps, right? It's like, hey, this is Arnhem. Hey, this is Malamie map or Malamie airfield. Okay, not really. But it's the scale it's the scale plus the detail. Ooh, I like that. That kind of rhymes. Scale plus detail.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm listening to a book on Juno right now because I'm, for whatever reason, might be D-Day soon. Mm-hmm. But as they're doing that, I'm thinking about The Greatest Day and like, oh yeah, it'd be cool to play that in you can play it in ASL, and I know you can play it in ATS. Mitch is an ATS guy, and Tony. But which is cool. But I do like GTS, and I've kind of come to it because first, I mean, everything's named for the companies, right? It goes down to the company level, and maybe sometimes a little smaller, but usually company. So, and it's got all the regiments, it's got some leaders named, the high level leaders,
regimental leaders, and the division leaders,
division leaders for sure.
Yeah.
And the details on the maps are really good. And most people can, go check out Board Game Geek or whatever and see the details. So it's just really got me tempted. And I was really thinking about that. Like, okay, that would be fun because they're talking about those towns that I know are on the map that we fought over last year and the challenge they're having. And usually books, they either talk about, Todd was fighting. Todd took these shots and did this thing because we like to zoom into the person because it makes it more story. But then a lot of times those books kind of stay at kind of a higher battalion, company, sometimes the platoon, but usually company level. Like they'll say the third company did this. So I'm excited to get that back out. I may be doing that here in the next couple of weeks for, again, some reason. Yeah. Okay, that's really cool. I appreciate that. So a couple.
Can I add one other thing? Because you mentioned the leaders. The scale that the system, it's company level units, regimental level formations, typically division level, as kind of an overarching command structure. The scale is also the level at which I like to plan. Like when I get ready for a game, especially like if I'm playing one of the big campaigns and it's maybe a con setting, we're going to play for a week, or we're going to play Vassal, a series of Vassal sessions and play through one of the big games. I'll typically plan at the battalion level, which is usually in these games, let's say 3 units plus maybe a supporting mortar. So you've got 4 units, and you can go, all right, I'm going to plan for those 4 units. I'm going to give them an objective, and I'm going to see if they can achieve that objective. That's probably my most one of the most satisfying things for me, is to actually plan at that level and then try to execute. My plans always fail, but I like to plan at that level and see it come to life. I really enjoy that.
Yeah, and speaking of that, everybody, we are going to get a glimpse into the mind of a strategic genius, Ty's.
Oh yeah, who's coming on?
Yeah, Bob. Mitch is coming on. I don't know.
Yeah, Mitchell did.
Okay. Anyway, so Ty does have a cool map that he kind of used, but we'll talk about that in a minute. I guess real quick. Hey Chuck, good to see you. Charles, good to have you on here. By the way, Guth Wolf. We played at a small little gathering of like 25 guys. That's part of a guild that follows a podcast on Board Game Geek. And it's called Advance After Combat, and it's just a break-off group of that. They have their own con that they do in Dallas, which I'd like to go to sometime. But this is for monster big games, so we meet here in this the Midwest, St. Louis area. And we played, there were 6 games set up. I might have that wrong. Maybe there's 5. Mitch can correct, or Ty can correct me. But so there were 2 World War I games, one a little bit more zoomed in, a very grand strategic World War I, and one slightly zoomed 1914 from GMT. La Grande Guerre, some old 1997 game that looked like it was from 1973, but really cool. The guys had a good time. Huge ASL game, 2 or 3 mapper of Manila. Those guys. And Pacific War one that blew up and did not happen well. And I'm missing one. 2 World War I's. ASL, us. Well, there are just 5.
Yeah, I mean, I think as far as the core games,
yeah, that's right. Well, so it's cool because 4 of the games, went to some decision point. I mean, I guess ours probably went the shortest of the others, but I think all the other games went to certain. I mean, we reached a decision we'll talk about, but
yeah, I mean, the World War I games, those 2 games, those guys were up. They were always the first ones there, and the last.
Yeah, no, they were hardcore, and all their pieces were the same size pieces as these SCS pieces. They were all this big with a ton of detail on them.
Yeah,
it was pretty wild. A little glimpse on what I'm playing. Okay. Yes, Brian, that was one of them. Mitch played in that one, so Mitch can fill in there. I love a couple comments. Nordic Blitzkrieg Legend from OCS. That's a pretty fun. I played a little short scenario with that. So Hex asks, there's a lot. I mean, Goss has got a lot of detail. Have you ever given Goss a try?
I have not. Yeah, I mean, I've kind of peered over and looked. Hey, that's kind of the same level of detail. I just didn't need another system to try. I've been curious. So I don't know much about it.
I mean, the maps are cool and the details on the units are pretty cool too, but I think it's zoomed out. I don't think those are companies. I think those are battalions.
Oh, really? Okay.
I think so. And what was the last comment? And then we'll get going here. So I guess I have finally come around on GTS again after playing that game last year because we just got a lot of reps in. It just took me a long time to get it. Like I said, Nathan tried. I think someone else tried too, and it just took a while for it to sink in, and it finally did. And I'm really happy it did because it is a scale I like. I like the details, and Utah is on order.
I mean, as far as getting your reps in, there's, you can play a game, especially a big monster game, over a week, let's say, and get burned out. But usually, I mean, a lot of times when I finish a GTS game, like, I want to play again immediately because I had like 5 different things I wanted to do differently. So it's not discouraging if things don't work out. It's like almost it encourages you to try something else. And you learn so much about. I mean, especially because some of the scenarios, and I think this is true for the Crete campaign that we played. It takes a while to see how everything kind of fits together.
Yeah.
From a scenario perspective.
Yeah.
Especially a big campaign game like that with all the maps, and then you've got the core rules, but then you've got the scenario rules. Until you actually play it, you don't see how the things fit together between the landings and the retreats and the withdrawals and the morale. It's like there are systems here, but I don't quite get it. And so once you do it, you're like, I get it better now. I want to try again. This could have worked. This could have been better. I could have done this differently. What if I didn't do this? What if my guys didn't crash on their drops? That kind of stuff.
Right. Brian, I'd forgot that. I did kind of give you the basics for Crete for your winter offensive game. That's right. I forgot I'd done that. So sorry about that. No wonder you forgot how to play it. But Brian, I'm always happy to get back on. And Nordic, if you want to get on with me sometime, we can certainly run through some moves on Vassal. And I feel like I know it well enough to teach it.
Can I brought a picture. I found my pictures from the con. You want me to show the table?
Actually, let me show something real quick before I do that. Yeah, you can go ahead and share your screen. It's not going to pop up. I have to actually bring it on the stage. So real quick, everybody. So bring yours up and then I'll share. So this is what happened was, is we started in January, playing on Vassal, to get through the air landings, which in this game are really quick. It's not that intense. There are no beach landings, so you don't have to worry about that. But there are a couple points you kind of have to get to. Like if the landings are absolutely awful for the Germans, there could be just no way they're going to capture an airfield, and they have to capture an airfield to start getting replacements. So we wanted to play to a point to see how it went. And, we fortunately had a point we could keep going. I don't know what we would have done if it would have been terrible. Maybe we just would have started over and not got as far, but it also just got us a little getting into the game. Also got Matt and Chris were new to the game pretty much. So it gave them, unfortunately didn't give them too many reps, which is a lesson that Ty and I definitely learned how to play this game, but they got a few reps in and got to listen in and do some things before we got to the con, so that we're not sitting at the con teaching the game. And I would say they got enough out of those sessions that they were pretty, yeah. So that's how we started. So this was the last save map. We're not going to spend a lot of time zooming in and looking at exact pieces and where they were going to go, but I just want to show this. And I've also got pictures pulled up of the map too, or the game. Actually, I can show it real quick. Have you clicked share or present yet?
No.
Yeah, go ahead, click present.
AI doesn't do it for me. Okay.
It's reading your mind, and then it's going to ask you want to share a window or a screen.
Right.
Whichever you want to do there. And so everybody, this is a 5 maps basically with a little kind of 8.5 by 11 over there and stuff. And these you can kind of see kind of basic size maps. And yeah. And so this is about 12 to 13 feet long or wide or whatever you want to call it. And then this is it. This is the left end. You actually can't see the 8.5 by 11 map. It's sitting over here.
Castelli. Yeah. Good point.
Yeah. And then, I guess we did. We got Toby here thinking about life. We got Chris down here. We did get a picture of everybody. Cool.
Yeah.
Rich and Chris are kind of going at it over here. So it was one of their few times they got to do stuff. And there's Matt, probably checking work email or something. Then I sat here and Ty sat here. We sat on the same side because we were playing on this little section here. It is an odd map for table layout. And actually, these tables worked out great. So these tables are only about 18 inches deep. So they're made for like classroom style in a hotel, to just have like a little table and they'd be set up classroom style. But in this case, it really worked out nice because it was small. So my original thought I was going to sit here and Ty would sit here, but then everything happened right here. And it's just a little too far to reach. So that's that. Let's what I want to do, Ty, also is let's just talk about kind of what the goal of the game is. We don't have to go over all the victory locations, so I'm going to bring mine back.
Yeah.
And get rid of our mugs here. All right, so get you oriented here, everybody. Let's see here. Bring up my map here. Can anyone? Okay, you can see my map. All right, so basically, it's the Germans landing on Crete. If you don't know, it's an island in the Mediterranean. The Germans wanted to take it because it's, vital for the sea and air and who knows all the reasons and whatever. It was their first major airborne operation and really their only major operation. They had a small one and they had some other ones. They had some successful one in Belgium, but it was quite relatively small compared to this. And after this, they decided not to. The Germans ultimately won this campaign. But it was at a high cost, as lost lives, equipment, just lots of things they learned, and I'm sure the Allies learned too, fighting against it, like how they improved the way they went to do airborne. But the goal was really to capture airfields, which are right here. We can certainly zoom in, but this is Malim Airfield up here. And then way over here was Heraclion. Is that right? Is it this map? Yeah.
No, that's Rethman. Heraclion's one more over.
Oh, right here. I can see it. Yeah. So Heraclion, they wanted to capture 2 airfields. And then they also wanted to catch some ports, which is here, and then Kanea Suda and here. So obviously ports are important. So they wanted to capture those as well. The initial game is pretty much the Fallschirmjägers land around here to take Maleme Airfield, and they land. That's the initial, and so basically what happened is Ty and I played a lot against each other because we were commanding this side of things. And then when did these troops start air landing over here?
So they land
basically
the towards the end of the first day. So my Fallschirmjägers landed like 0700 in game terms on May 20th. And then Rethmian landed, I think it was 1500.
Yeah. That's
and Heraklion was 1700. So there was a handful of turns between the first landing and the second and third landings.
And so that's one of the points we wanted to get to as well, is get the other ones landed, which I thought we did that. Did we not get to their landing?
That's what we did on Vassal. So we in preparation for the con, we didn't want guys sitting around. So we said, let's play up till everyone's involved.
That's right.
On Vassal. Right. So we were ready to go. And I thought that worked pretty well.
For the most part.
Yeah. I mean, we accomplished that goal. Everybody was involved by the time the con got going.
So there are some distance between. Crete is like a 200+ mile long island. So at this scale, we're not going to have the whole thing. I know it looks like the whole thing. There's a ton of island down here. It's about 50 miles wide. So basically what happens is, so you can transfer map to map. There's these little boxes. There's ways of doing it to get, so you can send troops across to all the maps if you want to do that. There's some restrictions, and of course, but the ultimate goal is this: they want to capture these airfields and ports, really the airfields first, so they can start getting the reinforcements. And then they want to take these ports. Again, Ty, just jump in if I'm kind of missing something. It's kind of the overall big picture. Take the ports, and then they really want to break the morale of the Allies. So what happens is the Allies start with a morale of 35. You lose it for a variety of reasons: losing ports, losing personnel. You can gain them back. You don't go over 35. Can you go over 35? No, you can't, right?
You cannot go over the starting value. That's correct.
Yeah. So, but you can get them back, and we did that. That was kind of a fun thing I enjoyed about it, because we went down as low as, I think we got down in the 20s, and then we were able to come back into the low, maybe high 20s, low 30s at one point, which was kind of fun. Not fun for you guys, but and so what the Germans want to do is get that to 0, because as soon as that happens, then the British, basically the Commonwealth, it's New Zealand, Australian, and British, they then need to run and hit exits. So the British exit is down here, and there's a exit, I think, on this map over here.
Yeah, on Heraklion. Yep.
So, and that's kind of the thing. And then basically it's not a free for all, but the Commonwealth had to get like 45 points or something. That's basically 45 units. Like, it could be, just had to be a unit, and they had to get them off. We count, I think we had about 80 to 100. I'm jumping ahead here. Anyway, and then there's a bunch of little objectives that keep the British from, like, I'm just leaving. Like, we can't do that because we have to protect the ports. There's some sudden death things like down here. Again, it's kind of it's a neat design thing, because again, otherwise we'd be like, we're just going to run and win.
Right.
You can't do that, because if Germans catch us, and we didn't even get close to the timing of this, let alone Germans getting close to hit this. We were on the 21st, 22nd, and these are like the 26th of the days for this. May is what I'm talking about, May 26th on game time. So there's a lot of cool little things. The Germans have to like capture one of these, and they have to get someone off here. It's just neat things to kind of show a broader strategy, and not just, kind of the end world, the map ends here, but the game represents some things that there's more going on off the map, which is kind of, I thought, pretty cool.
Yeah. And I mean, Perry mentioned in the chat, the campaign game that we played and that we're talking about is the victory conditions are about the way the Commonwealth units manage their retreat.
Right.
And I think what I was saying earlier, it takes some time for all the sub mechanics and scenario special rules to come together. That's one of the things about the Crete, the Operation Mercury as a game. If you play the early scenarios, it's a landing at this airfield, it's a landing at that airfield. Can you take it? Can you not take it? There's a lot of it's obviously they're smaller scenarios, and so they're only part of the operation. But the campaign level, I was really pleased as we got further into it. Every time I had a kind of a question about like you just said, is like, well, what the heck? What's preventing the Commonwealth from just, oh, here the Germans are, let's run.
Right.
Well, there's a whole bunch of sudden death victory conditions and other mechanics that keep the Commonwealth. They can't just flee. They can't, I said it to someone who's asked me about it. I said, can the Commonwealth keep the retreat from becoming a rout? Right. It's a managed retreat. It's a, do they have to live to fight another day in a way.
Correct.
And so, I think, naturally and not surprisingly, there's a lot of focus on the airfields and what happens around them, but that's not how if you're playing for the rules and how you calculate victory, it's about the Commonwealth exit. Everything else is in service of that victory condition. It was kind of, I think it's really smart how Joe did it. So I was really pleased with that.
So Perry, you don't go down all the way to the beach, but this is essentially that, because if you did that, it would just be the same thing for more turns. And this would be a lot. And it's a 179 turn game. We got through turn 20 or 21.
Just 79, not 179, but just 79 turns. Yeah. Which is still is plenty.
79 turns. Turns in GTS are 2 hours. I think night is a little longer, but because less things happen. So is that 7 per day? Is that how that works? Something like that. Anyway.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 turns per day. I got our little checklist. I got that.
Yeah. So actually,
we made it through 20 turns. We made it to the 20th turn of 79.
Oh, we didn't. Oh, I thought we got through the 20th. Darn. Okay.
And by that, well, maybe I stopped checking too. But anyway, we got about 1,300 of the 22nd of May, so the third game day.
Yeah.
And by that point, withdrawal had been triggered.
Yes.
For the Allies, so they were preparing to, retreat in an organized fashion. But that was also the end of the week of the con, so we were pretty much done. And we talked about, it's kind of a I don't know how to say it. It's if you're the Allies, I could see how if you're the Allied player, where once withdraw is triggered, you have to be really committed to the campaign, I think, to see it all the way through. I think, and we didn't do it, right? And we kind of basically abandoned the game at that point because of time and I think because of interest. But it would have been interesting to see how it played out, to kind of see what kind of retreating events and, hey, we took a stand at the crossroads to protect our units to retreat. And, we just don't know because we didn't play that far. But I could see how if you were the Commonwealth player, you're like, yeah, we're done. We're retreating. But if you want to play the full operation the way it's set up, or I say the full operation as it's designed in this game, I should say. Each game is probably a little bit differently.
Yeah.
But like that's what you're committing to as the Commonwealth player. I gotta survive this retreat.
Yeah. So. And unless things go just, I think, horribly wrong for the Germans, yes, every game's going to end up.
Yeah.
Which it could turn out, or maybe if you had a better Commonwealth player over on that side, I don't know. And that was me. And just to kind of illustrate the challenges, I think, with that retreat thing is there's only one road from this side that goes across the map down to the main escape road. This other road ends here.
Yeah.
You can certainly go across this land, but unless you're in column, we won't get into all the details. It costs 2 on these clear white hexes for a foot to go on there, plus double the movement across these. I don't know if you can see it in the details there, but these ridges.
Yeah.
It's friggin' expensive to move across. I was curious how the Germans are going to do this. It'd be a lot of putting in column and going. You can kind of find ways to snake around the levels. But
yeah, the off-road terrain is really rough. And there's a lot of it that may or may not get used in the maps just because it's so remote.
Right.
And I think that's a pretty common, I'll say, criticism of some of the games in the series. And these are such monster games that sometimes there's unused terrain.
Right.
And, I don't know if that's untrue for other games, but I've heard people kind of pick on it. But yeah, if you're not, there's one way out. I guess really 2 ways out. There's the Heraklion map. There's this map. I forget the name of it. There's a little bit of exiting the Commonwealth can do through the ports.
Oh, that's right. But it's like
it's like two units per night turn or something like that. Per
night turn.
Yeah. But I think, yeah, at one point when you guys were getting ready to withdraw or in the process of withdrawing, I did count like 80 units.
Yeah. It was 80 units.
Possible scoring units. And so, there was, just because the Germans took the airfields, the mountain units, the air landing units were coming in by their planes on 2 of the airfields. I don't think there was any guarantee that the Germans were going to win, or I don't know if I would even say they were winning, but they had to do that to actually keep the game going.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So, and I think it was 42 or 45 is what the number of units to get a marginal, like to get out of a draw for the Commonwealth to win. You had to get 42 or 45. I don't remember what the number is. So, and it's a lot, and you could get a few. Anyway, so getting I can see it being a close run thing.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, if you just really have to, and this is where, when I played Nathan, remember years ago, and I said I kind of was overwhelmed by the things you can do. That's a great thing about the system. There's so many things and ways. Well, I don't know if there's ways to do things and to manage things, but there's a lot to think about. And there's, to do a successful withdrawal and to do a successful attack, there's just different things to think about and concern yourself with.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's think here. Let's talk real briefly. We're kind of going to go. I'm going to go all over the place here because I didn't make an outline for this, but I do have awards for all the players, by the way, and you already revealed one of them with Rich, but we'll say it again at the end. So,
I did. I revealed it.
Yeah, but it's cool. It's okay because it was the best burn I'd ever heard.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so let's just talk real quick about the kind of the logistics of the game and how it played. So how were you with the way the vassal sessions went first? Any comments on that?
Yeah, I mean, I had run or played in a handful of larger scenarios or campaign games in Mercury, and I've done a handful of like training sessions for guys in the guild. And so I kind of knew what I was getting into with the module. I mean, just a quick side note, the existing, or many of the existing GTS vassal modules have a lot of bells and whistles, and built-in automation and the way that they activate units, and it's got an attack wizard, but they were getting a little bit long in the tooth as vassal was updated, and maybe these modules didn't keep up. They still worked 95% of the time, but anyway, the point I'm getting at, with Utah around the corner, the designer for many of these modules is back in the fold, and so I think we're going to get an update or bringing up to current standards many of these modules, starting with Sword Juno Gold and Utah. So that's going to be nice because when they work, and they mostly do, like like I said, 95% of the time, They provide a lot of benefit to the player. So yeah, the Vassal went well. It's always a thing to schedule guys. We had 6 players, and you got to get, hey, who's available then and that in there. So that's just online stuff. But yeah, I thought that went well.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, and the cool thing about this system is that you kind of like, especially at the beginning, it was just Ty and I, because it was just us really playing. And so then we could say at one point, hey, Matt, your guys are going to be next. We drew your chit, so Matt has to be there. Rich doesn't have to be there, whatever. So it's kind of nice that way, in the way it plays, that you could. Hey, there's Mike Curtis. He's a GTSer.
Yeah, I learned a lot from Mike. Mike's not only a great player and a great guy, but he knows his stuff. So hey, Mike.
It would be fun to play Mike. I'd be fun to play Mike sometime. By the way, Nathan gave you credit. Your early videos, a million years ago, inspired him to helped him learn the game. So I just wanted to make sure you heard that.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any other new comments here. So yeah, keep chatting, guys. Other GT or other Operation Mercury games. Okay, let's get to.
Can I maybe point out something last year we played Sword Juno Gold, right? We played the 1-day scenario. We had 6 players, and that scenario in that game is very well designed for 6 players. It's there's 3 beaches. You also have the airland. You have the 6th Airborne landing too, but really there's like 3 sectors.
Yep.
You can run multiple cups. Even though it's a huge game, you can play in parallel path.
Correct.
I think I knew to some degree, but I don't think I understood fully, but I certainly do now. This game, Operation Mercury, while on the surface it may look like it would support a 6-player setup. You've got, Malami, you've got Rethmian, you got Heraklion, 3 sections, Germans, Commonwealth, 6 players, right? This game doesn't really work. I would, in retrospect, I don't think it's really set up to play 6 players. And certainly not 6 experienced players. Like we had a couple new guys who giving them a smaller sector.
Yeah.
Was probably okay, but I think definitely at some point it's kind of like, gosh, I wish those guys had more to do. And you can't run multiple cups. There's only what? There's 4 total divisions, 2 for Germans, 2 for Commonwealth.
Yep.
One of the German ones for the air landings don't come in until much later. So usually you're running 2 cups, maybe 3. It's tough with that many people. I probably would have prefer to play it in retrospect with 4.
Yep.
For a con, and then I'd even play it 1-on-1, even though it's huge. I think that would be plenty.
You could do 1-on-1.
You could do 1-on-1. Yeah,
I think which is pretty amazing considering the size.
Yeah. And
now it is a lot, but if you're playing 1-on-1, you're going to be playing over time, and you wouldn't necessarily have the time pressure. Like we got to get this ready for May, so. And yeah,
it's you could as one side or the other, you could manage it as a single player. You can't do that with Sword Juno Gold. In a con setting where I was at Consim World a couple years ago, and at one point I was managing 3 German divisions in Sword Juno Gold, and my brain was melting because everybody's talking to you, and it's too much, and you're trying to keep track of everything. Just if you're thinking about running this or playing it, the other thing I'd point out is that the campaign game that we played is I think it's called is it Main Event? No, not Main Event.
No.
11 Mercury Rising. So it's the historical full campaign. There are scenarios in the game where it's just. There's one called the Main Event, which, as you can imagine, is just the Malami airfield and I think the ports. They have the big section, right?
Yep, this area.
So yeah, it's there's you can get to the meat of it with some of the different scenarios, but if you're going to play the full thing, 2 or 4 players is plenty.
Yeah, I think the Main Event would be a fun one to try.
Yeah.
Now, so just so everyone knows, yeah, Mike, I agree. A moderator is always good. And I think so. The challenge, I felt this year I think was better. Last year, Mitch knew the game pretty well. Mitch is a good rules guy. That guy knows rules. He picks up stuff. So Mitch was playing in last year's game, so he was pretty solid in the rules. But Ty was definitely what you heard last year all the time. Hey Ty, hey Ty, hey Ty,
yeah.
Ty, hey Ty. So in a way, like what Mike's saying, it almost might have been better if you were moderating that game last year. Well, maybe not last year, but like at some point you kind of reach a point. It's like, because I kind of thought about this after playing this. I thought I could have a fun time being a moderator for a game, kind of just making sure the rules kind of keep the cup going. You know, it depends on the game and what you want to do, but I can see that if you want to do that. Just to let people know who maybe don't know the system. So it's a chit draw system. Each division in the game has a chit that's going to come out pretty much every turn. So what he's saying is initially, so there's only 4 divisions in this game, which is quite small. Like he's saying, it's quite small. So, but within each division, you have 2 to 4 formations, depending on the division and stuff, or something like that.
1, 2, 3. Yeah, for the Fallschirmjägers, there were 3 formations for that division.
Okay. So what's happening there is, so then you have the division chit that comes up and 2 to 3 more. So you could have 4 plus a direct command chit, which anyway. So there's that's a lot going on when you're one player. And I just want to illustrate, he was running 3 of those. So 12 to 15 chits, you know, I mean, what I found funny in this game, I didn't see this last year. I don't know why it happened this year. Probably just because I'm a year older, but I stopped being able to do simple math, you know, like add 1 here, 2 here, -1 here, 3 here. And I would just like, it was at the end of the day that it would be like that. So, and it just, my slow play became even slower, which bugged me. So, I like what Mike's saying here. I'm looking forward to the full-blown Normandy game at ComSim World. I've wanted to go to ComSim World, and I know a lot of people are going to want to play in that game, but I would be tempted to jump in on that if I could get an invite.
Yeah. Right. Well, we got to get Omaha out, but
yeah, I know we got some time before we get there.
We got some time, but there's going to be plenty to, you know, like you said, Utah's a couple weeks away, so
that. I would like to talk about Utah real quick near the end of this, just because you've been doing a little testing, whatever you feel comfortable sharing about it. And
sure.
It's going to be pretty amazing. It's very expensive, but anyway, we'll get to that. So everyone, lastly, we'll leave it at this, then let's get back to the gameplay. There are, 12 scenarios or something in this campaign. There's one where you can do drops kind of wherever you want, I think. But then they break it down to like super small, just to kind of learn some basics where, but then maybe you're just doing like one map. And then, like he said, this whole map or this map. So there's a bunch of different things you can do, just kind of get the basics. Or even if you just like, because really a lot of the stuff that Ty and I spent a lot of time right here. This is where, a lot of time. And so I think it would be fun to do this again, just to Ty, because there's some things, we'll be getting to that soon. Kind of like, I think I didn't feel great about what I was doing. Okay, well, let's see. Where do we want to go from here? I think overall the guys all had a good time, even though there was a lot of downtime for these guys, like over here. And I think they agreed, though. I think generally that 4 players would have been good, just to keep the action going. At one point, I recruited Toby, and he came over and played one of my guys just to give him more.
Right. Yeah, Rich. When the air. So one of the surprising, jumping ahead, one of the surprising things was Rethmian airfield was taken pretty early, and so that allowed the air landings to happen. And once those happened, Rich kind of came over from the Heraklion section and ran some of the air landing units. So
Malim fell.
Yeah,
you said Rethmian, but I think it was Malim, right?
Well, no, yeah. So I did take Malim, but Matt also took Rethmian.
Oh yeah. That's right.
Pretty surprisingly to me, at least. I was like, that feels like a stretch, but no, he pulled it off, and so
that's right.
Once the air landings happened, we kind of split up the landings across the 2 airfields.
That's right.
Yeah. But Heraklion is just poor Rich. I mean, like Toby last year had Sword Beach, which is a real hard beach to navigate, especially for a player who's kind of new to the system. But Heraklion the Germans are just kind of overwhelmed. So you have to be really focused on what your objectives are. You're probably not going to take that airfield. I can't imagine how that would happen. So you have to come up with another objectives. What can I contribute to the overall? Okay, I'm not going to get an airfield. Someone else can do that. What can I do? I can kill Commonwealth units. That actually contributes to the victory condition. That helps my team. So you have to be focused on that.
Interesting. Okay.
Anyway,
well, let's talk about the plan then, or we're not talking. Let's talk about how you kind of thought through this.
Sure.
I mean, I'll just go with the Allied side. We weren't near as structured as Ty, but Ty has the most experience. I would say I kind of helped Ty run this one this year, but I would say sort of. I felt pretty good with the rules, but
yeah, I mean, so if you're going to run a camp, I mean, I don't know how much con everybody has, but if you're going to run a con, you definitely need, more than one person. And usually it's, you get one person from one side, one person from the other side, and like they're the go-to. It's like, hey, can you rally the troops? Can you get things organized? Can you set up a date? Can you set up the map? Can we use your game at the con? Can you bring your plexi? It takes a village, I guess. So yeah, definitely. You were definitely a big help.
So yeah, and then the guys are starting to get the rules, and I think Matt and Chris seemed pretty comfortable with them as well. Okay, so let's so we're going to look at the Allied plan. I don't have anything written out, and as you're going to see that like Ty did. We just would kind of talk with each other, offline or whatever, online, offline with each other, and then when we were there, both sides would kind of break off and stuff. But I think Ty's got a good way of thinking through this, because it command and control is very important. How far you are from your leaders is important. If you're far away, you can still do things. It's just harder. And so so that, people love BCS because you're keeping units together, in a way that's like they do in the military, right? They don't just send guys all over like this SCS game I'm playing. You can kind of send guys all over the place. Unrealistic. But here they do that. So there is some thinking to be done to help you do better play. And I like kind of what Ty was doing. So I'm going to put this up there again, whether or not it worked, whatever. We don't have to get into all that, but yeah. All right. So I guess Ty, I'll just let you step on kind of how you think about playing, and then we'll talk about how you think it went, and how.
Yeah, I mean, I don't do this for every game I play, but definitely if I'm going to a con or I'm playing a campaign game, and I've got my units, and in this case, it was the Fallschirmjägers. I was saying earlier, I like to plan at the battalion level, right? So you've got your division. Within that division, you've got maybe a handful of regiments, and then within those regiments, you've got battalions, and then the actual units on the map, the counters are company level for the most part. And so, yeah, I like to put together a plan and like to see how it comes together. So, the natural inclination, I think, when I hear people talk about this game, is to say, I got to take an airfield. I got to take an airfield. I got to take an airfield. It's about the airfield. If I don't take the airfield, the game's over. If I got to take it, I got to hold it. That's true, but that's not how you win the game. And you don't win the game by taking the airfield. What does the airfield enable you to do? It enables you to have your air landing units. And that isn't even how you win the game, but and so I think when I've seen other people play, and even I've done it too. It's like rush to the airfield, take it and hold it. Well, that's great, but you're sitting there on the airfield in clear terrain, open territory, and if you take it almost right away, those air landing units don't come for another day and a half. right? So you have to defend that airfield for a day and a half. And I found that to be not feasible, not a. And so, what I even experienced when I played before is you take Malamute and you sit there, and then the Commonwealth just drops arty on you, and their armor shows up, and they just kind of surround you, and they just beat the shit out of you for a day and a half, and you lose the airfield, and the guys can't, the planes can't land, and then it's game over. And so my idea wasn't, yes, I want to take the airfield, but I want to take it and hold it for 1700 on May 21st. Like, I don't have to take it at 1100 on the 20th, right? I need to get it. I need to get there in strength. I need to get there and hold it, but nothing's going to happen until 1700 of the next day, right? So that's kind of like the first shift that I did in my thinking when I was setting up for this. And then I think the other things that you'll see represented here is, I'm forgetting my formations, but the red striped units, I think this was a little ahistorical. I wanted to bring them east, and I've got this blocking line here. I mean, what typically will happen is that the Germans will land, the orange stripers over here in the east, over in the west. They'll start fighting over Hill 107. And the Commonwealth, they'll start closing in on the airfield. They're reinforcing the airfield that they already hold, and it becomes kind of a race to see how well the Commonwealth can reinforce their positions over the airfield. So anyway, I wanted to bring these units over, these red stripe units, to kind of cut off any reinforcements, any support that would be coming in from the Commonwealth, from the other New Zealanders and some of the Australians, from the east. So that's kind of what all these lines and arrows represent. I did call out these black stripe units, which are pioneers. They're engineers. Engineers are critical units in the series, and they can do a lot of things. So I wanted them to come over and work their magic on a couple things. There is an engineer that starts over to the west, and he definitely wants to go and dig in some of the indirect fire units that are there, because that gives them a lot of bonuses. So there's some work to do in that first day and a half, but it's also more than just a mad dash, at least in my experience and view. And, I had what I thought to be a disastrous initial landing. I mean, Todd, you'll confirm I was cursing up a storm.
Yeah, there were some words thrown around.
Yeah, I mean, there were some critical units. I identified 3 critical units that I desperately needed to have land successfully so that I could prevent that Commonwealth reinforcement. And there's a little gap here between Hill 107 and the airfield, and that's a pretty common reinforcement path for the Commonwealth.
Can you zoom in on that?
Yeah.
If not, I can zoom in on the vessel map.
Yeah, if you get ooh.
Oh no!
There you go.
Your arrows didn't move with you.
Oh, it was. Yeah, it's a lot of screens going on here. Anyway.
So real quick, I didn't look at this at the game. I do like the colored arrows aligning with the color of the formation. That's pretty awesome. I mean, it's not. I'm sure. That's pretty cool. I like.
I mean, this is what gamers do when we have too much time on our hands, right?
No, it's fantastic.
But yeah, this is Hill 107.
Yeah.
I guess you can't see my mouse, but up in the upper left corner is Hill 107.
Yeah, there's a brown unit, and then there you go.
Yeah. So here's 107. Here's the airfield, right? 3 hexes for the airfield. The goal is the rule is to have the air landing units come in. You've got to control 2 adjacent hexes of an airfield. So 2 of these 3 that are next to each other you have to have. But there's a gap here between the shore and Hill 107, and usually the Commonwealth will just kind of cram in and start reinforcing these airfield hexes. And so, there are 3 landing units that I really wanted to keep, and all 3 of them died.
He did. It was bad.
It was bad. It was bad.
It was interesting because I think they actually had the easier roles because they were in open. I mean, they had some stuff against them, but you got a couple that had a lot more negative modifiers that did okay, and then these were a little better, and they just, I guess I don't know. Anyway, whatever. I just was surprised at the roll. I'm like, holy crap! Of all the ones that, but yeah, let's. Okay, go ahead.
I think one of the things. So there's a couple of reviews of the game, and they really some of the reviewers, and it's just a handful of people, and everybody's got an opinion, but they really kind of dump on the game because if the airfield isn't taken, then the game's over. And I mean, and that can be frustrating, but this wasn't a cakewalk for the Germans. And so it's from a design perspective, I kind of get that you kind of have to, it can't be easy for the Germans. And so it was tough. It was really tough. And after those initial landings, I don't want to say that I was ready to throw in the towel, but I was really, I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know if I could take the airfield. I don't know if I'm going to be able to survive the next day and a half. I don't know if Todd's going to reinforce so strongly that I'm not going to be able to take it. So it wasn't until that second game day where I was like, okay, this is kind of working how I hoped, right? Like I didn't put myself in the open. I didn't get beat up too badly. It wasn't easy, but there was still a chance. There's still a chance. And that's what I needed to do. That's what I needed. The idea of the blocking line and bringing in the red units to support over here to the further east, that didn't work quite as well as I hoped because, units are moving. And by the time they got there, some of the gaps I was hoping for didn't emerge. I think having them over there did slow you down a little bit, or at least drew your attention.
Yeah, I think that was what they did a lot. But yeah, I feel like that was a unit that was suffering some losses, I think.
Yeah. Hey, maybe one other thing I'll point out, we can move on, but you'll see these yellow lightning bolts.
Lightning bolt.
Yeah, they are the indirect fire units. The Commonwealth over in this sector has 3. I think they start the game with 3 artillery units that are in artillery parks, and they have, I have to count them up, but let's call it 5 or 6 mortar units, and all of those indirect fire units can really mess up your day if you're the Germans. So I think you really gotta. You do not pass up an opportunity to break up the Commonwealth artillery parks and kill the mortar units because they will mess up your day as the German.
Yeah, Ty did not like the mortar units.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I just like this because it just puts a little bit of, because when you get into the game, you can get distracted by stuff happening. You can lose kind of thought about, because there's a lot of units to move. There's a lot of things to do. Mm-hmm. And so it's nice to think of it. You said you thought about it down to the battalion level. Mm-hmm. I mean, that would be a step for me. I'd be good to do the regiment level first, but I think it's cool that you do that because that is a command shit that you buy, and it's good to have a mission for them to do here. So this is cool. This is the first page of this document. So
yeah, that's how I like to play. I guess regardless of the level that you plan at. I mean, if one is playing these games is just gonna kind of run in and just start slamming units together and roll some dice, you can do that. It's just not. I don't know. I think you miss a lot of what these games have to offer if you do it that way. I'm not saying that people necessarily play that way, but if you take a little bit of time and plan things out, for me at least, that brings a lot of satisfaction. Just kind of say, yeah, I've got some ideas. I want to try some things out.
Right.
But yeah, so this was kind of another, and I actually do this kind of thing for the other games a little bit differently. But here, rather than specifically battalions, in some cases it is a battalion. But in these are all the landing sticks.
Oh,
I said, all right, well, what's stick one going to do? What's stick two going to try to do? What's stick three kind of do? Some of these are even, if you look at stick 10, like their landing position was so bad, pray. They're in a tough spot. Like I think that particular one, they were over by one of the ports, and they were just surrounded when they landed, and it's like they're not going anywhere. They're just going to get shot up. So, but yeah. So that's the planning process that I had. With the other guys on the German side, as they were coming in, I talked to them with some ideas. Just kind of say, hey, if I was in your shoes. I said, tell me to shut up if I'm telling you too much what to do. But I think there's some things to think about, and we strategized as a team, and that was fun. I like talking to guys about what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I thought, that is a fun part to do, is kind of work together. I do like the idea of having a team. It takes a little bit of the pressure off me. I feel like I can okay, what are you guys thinking? What do you think about this? Kind of run ideas past, especially as you're kind of learning. And for those guys, it was helpful for them, I'm sure, because especially like I said, when I played Nathan that time, it's just there's so many things to do. It's like I don't even know I don't know. How do I even start thinking about this? So I know that they were calling you over occasionally, like, hey, what do you think about this? And Tad give his opinion, and they would do it or not. So it was good.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely not always right.
Yeah. I mean, Ty never claimed a strategic genius. But he does know the rules, and so because that's an important part too. Knowing the rules, kind of knowing like the big thing. I was just watching Lee Forrester's videos on the beach landings.
Okay.
And he's used that whole tempo term that you used.
Yeah.
So tempo, everybody. So you get points. It's your currency, and you get points to buy basically those counters to put them in the cup to get them drawn. The formations, not the divisions. So the divisions are always in there, but those formations aren't. And it costs you points to put them in there. But those points can also be used for higher level command. Lower level command stuff. So that's kind of the economy of it. And to me, that's where it starts there's a lot of little decisions to be made there. And so tempo means that you keep a nice, you budget, you kind of have a nice level so you can kind of keep things going, because you're buying dispatch points, using command points by dispatch points, and kind of keeping a nice level. And we bought into Ty's talking about it so much that we at one point just had a ton of them, maybe too many, I don't know, but we just had a ton of command points and dispatch points. So we definitely had that ability to do things, which is good. I think
okay.
Well, real quick, I think initially we didn't need as many, but we definitely were getting them. And I could see at the end game why we would see using those dispatch, kind of using them more, right? Because then we would have a lot of priority because there's a bunch of turns where we didn't really need to activate every unit because we were really defensive, and as I learned, there's not a whole lot I could have done offensively, necessarily. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I like that term economy. The economy of the game is such that you have to think how you're going to conduct your operations. So if you're on the offensive, that economy will, in a sense, direct. I don't want to say restrict, but it'll put some parameters around. You can't just attack. One, you can't afford that all the time in game terms with your command and dispatch points. And if you want to be successful with an offensive, you got to have something to follow it up with. Like if you do an attack and you create a little bit of an opening with like maybe a successful roll, you want to exploit that opening, but if you've already blown your resources, your economy isn't there to support that, then you've kind of, because the opponent's going to rally, or he's going to bring in some other forces to kind of plug in that gap. And so I do like, there's a couple times I can think when we played where it's like, all right, let's take a breath, let's do our rallies. It's getting close to nighttime. Let's set up for tomorrow morning, right? We're not going to do anything at night. Maybe we're not going to do much in the 1700 turn right before night, or is it 1900 turn right before night? But we're going to set up so that we can get a big push the next morning. I want to say one of the hardest things I had to do in the game was once Rich's units came down on Heraklion and he was ready to go. And I don't blame him. Like, I'm on the ground. I want to get going. Like, I had to convince him, like, we need your units to wait so that we can build up our resources, so that we can build our economy, so that we can keep the engine going later on. If we spend everything now, if we try to do everything right now, we're gonna run out of gas, and it's gonna be harder to put gas in the tank. And so I love that part about the series, but when you're managing a multiplayer game, it's like, okay, and then later on, I hope it worked out better, because I could say, yeah, now I'm done. I've taken the airfield over at Malamie. Rich, now it's your spotlight, and we're going to throw some points your way, right? Like, I can dig in. I'm on the defensive now. You can go on the offensive. Let's put our resources over at you. So it's, it's tough to make that sacrifice, but I tried to make the case that that's what we needed to do.
So that was a challenge with this game. Usually you manage your own division and you can kind of do your own thing with your points. Here, both of us, but mine not till later. Like he's saying, he had one division to share with Matt and Rich. So they had to kind of like, okay, I want to spend points, but I want to spend points. And it just that's an interesting challenge that other games don't necessarily have. That I think it's kind of fun, because then you kind of like, I want to do this. I got this great chance. And I heard the guys talking about that and all that, which was cool. Real quick, there is a story in the magazine about command. I think it's Lee wrote this, and it just talks about kind of the command points and thinking about your units and like, breaking them down and what you got to do what with, which is pretty cool. Yeah. All right, let's talk real quick. My kind of the thing that kind of kept on my mind. There was one night during the convention when I don't know if I was dreaming it or in that time between awake and sleep, where I was imagining moving things in like some nebulous box hex thing, like maps.
Okay.
And like do it here, but not here, but move here, but spin point. I mean, it was like, oh boy, I was thinking about the game too much. Lost a little sleep. I would say the thing I didn't.
A perfect dream to me.
Well, but it was nebulous. It wasn't the thing. It was just an anxiety dream. So
the answers weren't coming to you in your dream. It was anxiety. Yeah.
Yeah, it was an anxiety dream. Yeah, great. This is fun. Let's play some more. So I would say that my biggest thing, I think I could have done better, and I think I could have been more aggressive, like you were talking about. So, and so I had this whole New Zealand guys over here. Now this is at just another part of the game here. I was never sure what to do with these guys here. It's a relatively smaller unit, but they kind of sat here because here these brown guys really aren't doing much for a chunk of the first beginning. They're not activating yet, so there wasn't a whole lot to do with them. They're basically here to guard this port and kind of be defense on that. But these guys are kind of out here a little bit by them. Relatively speaking, by themselves, because the rest of their comrades are over here in the west. Comrades, whatever. Brothers. So I didn't do much with them for a few turns because I wasn't sure what to do with them.
Right.
And this is the kind of thing like, because I know where he's landing. We're not doing fake drops and all that stuff. So I kind of knew that stuff. And it just comes with learning the game. That's what's fun about it. So this now provides an opportunity. Like, so what I would do next time, depending again on how the landings go and stuff, I would move these guys over here quickly, right? And I did not do that. And they can't, like, they could come down this way, whatever, it doesn't matter. I need to get them over on that side of the board. I started to do that later, which was fine, which would have been fine in the defense. And then I kind of stayed on this side of the hill. And one of the things I thought of late as I was sitting there thinking, I don't know if I have enough pieces and stuff. I'd have to kind of look through it again, but that's why it'd be fun to play this. I thought I should have either gone the way Ty was saying, like north of the hill here, or around the back of here, and maybe attacked up this side and just kept them busy. I kind of focused it all here, and so I was not doing much here. So that's one thing I kind of wish I would have done, is been more aggressive here or here, whichever way. But just giving you more to think about. Maybe get up here and see these guns are as weaker units. They got morale. Oh gosh, my brain suddenly. Command. What's the number? It's not morale.
Troop quality.
Troop quality. Thank you. They've got troop qualities of 4. Here's a 6. That's a heavy unit. But 4s and 3s, most of his strong units were 7s. Well, I was gonna have a hard time with that because my strongest guys were 5, mostly 4s. And basically what's happening, everybody, if you don't know, is you're rolling a D10 against that number a lot. Well, a 3 means you have a 30 to 40% chance of hitting it. A 7 means you have a 70 to 80% chance of hitting it. I'm really simplifying it, but we'll get to you in just a second on that question. So anyway, that was one thing I had. Did you have any thoughts about how I did things or anything? I mean, if you do, great. If you don't, great.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, this is one of the reasons I really like the series, because you start thinking about what you would do next time and what you could have done differently. And, I got to try things in this game that I didn't get to try when I played with Mike Curtis a couple years ago, right? Like, it just didn't, and it's, you learn as you play, and you want to try different methodologies. And let me think. So breaking up, if that's the right term, attempting to break up those German indirect fire units is worth considering. I'm not saying it's easy to get over it. Like if I saw you trying to move on them, I may have tried to protect them with some infantry units. It's going to be really tough to approach them because they're going to get a ton of opportunity to fire as you close.
Which is why I didn't go over there.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, and that's kind of why those Commonwealth artillery units in the parks are so important, because you want to drop your indirect fire from and you did it a couple times, but like, you want to suppress those indirect fire units of the Germans as much as possible, right? So I think that's one thing that could have gone better. But I did try to degrade your artillery capability pretty early. That was very intentional. You could have probably tried to reinforce the airfield more aggressively earlier. Again, but what I was saying earlier is, if the Germans take the airfield and they're sitting there in the open, the Commonwealth can just drop indirect fire on them in the open all day. Well, the reverse was true.
Correct.
You stayed on the airfield, which is, you should, but I was like, all right, let me just keep pounding, right? So, reinforcing the airfield sounds like a great idea, but then you've got these guys who are out in the open. Maybe they're under an improved position to help a little bit, but it's tough. Later in the game, you did pull back, I want to say, sooner than I expected. I'm trying to remember when that was.
It was after this screen here. It was during the game.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, not long after I took that first hex. So it's. I mean, these are the decisions you have to, like. When do I leave? When do I stay? When do I reinforce?
Yeah. So my struggle was, so everybody, the Commonwealth had these purple fire units here, and the color means something else. There's artillery, there's direct, indirect. Anyway, small arms combined, whatever, dual purpose. But these purple units can fire a lot. Let's just keep it simple at that. Well, that's fine. They can fire a lot, but they weren't doing a whole lot.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can blame die rolls, whatever. But again, they start at 5s and 4s and 3s. That's, 50, 60% chance down to 30, 40%. But then there's modifiers that usually took them down to 2 and, 1 and 0, honestly, 2, 1 and 0. Mm-hmm. So the chance of them doing something is pretty small. And then when they did do something, usually, we did not keep stats, often something called a possible suppression result. And again, remember I said his morale is like 7 on a lot of his units. Well, he passed that most of the time. So I was very hesitant to attack because I'm like, I can't hit these guys. And I'm shooting these guys with 3 guys just sitting out here in the open until you reinforced and did all this stuff. Yeah. I'm like, so I was unsure on how to attack. So yeah, when you took the airfield, I mean, I knew eventually you'd take it. I mean, there was just no question. I thought,
right.
I mean, So then I thought, okay, I really struggled on what to do. Like my plan was weak, and I think you could reflect in how I played because I was like, I don't know what to do with these units. So then I kind of came up with the plan, like I'm just gonna set up my defense, kind of a layered thing, so I can set it up, and you're not gonna see it here because I don't think I even took a picture of it. But basically, just setting up a line here with another line behind him. I P'd him, and then I was just gonna move him back and kind of a fighting withdrawal thing, and yeah. That was kind of my plan at that point, but I think there was more I could have done offensively. But again, like you said, that's why I didn't go around and go with these, because basically you get a lot of op fire in GTS, and they would have had a joyride. But I would have been distracting you, like you said. Maybe a couple of units would have gone over to protect them, right? So maybe it would have been good to do that so that you couldn't focus on the airfield as strongly or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that gap that you were just around again between Hill 107 and the coast.
Yeah,
in that unit that you have, to the little bit to the east, that you had the 3 units surrounding two exits to the right.
Oh yeah. This thing,
guys.
Yeah, that was insane.
Like, yeah, I mean, that German unit survived a lot longer than I expected. The unit to the north of him was a mortar unit.
Yeah.
And I think, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with your plan. There's nothing wrong with your plane. I think you could have assaulted him and knocked him out quite a bit earlier than you did. Ultimately, he died, but it
was too late. I mean, you're right. That took too long.
Yeah. But then I do wonder, what would have happened if you had some sort of combination of periodic assaults and kind of regular direct fire on that unit who was partially surrounded, because you pretty much stayed to the direct fires, and like you explained, it's kind of too slow, or I can shake off the possible suppressions, or I can rally from the cohesion hits at night, or if I don't think he was ever suppressed, but I think what I'm saying is if you could have eliminated that, and certainly easier said than done, but if you could have eliminated that mortar unit and that unit who you've got partially surrounded, that opens up that entire path. But it's hindsight. You could have rolled a lot better. I mean, basically the purple fire values, the light mortar fire values that we were talking about, you roll 0s on those, you get cohesion hits. And I think you rolled an abnormally low number of 0s. And so I kind of got lucky with some of the rolls too. So,
yeah.
So that's tough.
Yeah. So, and that is a cool thing. And I do want to play it again. And that's a cool thing. I did notice those, I did want to come back and play this. So this is what I did after last year's game. I actually found somebody that owned Crete in St. Louis.
That's right.
And went and bought it from the guy and picked it
up.
Like
the day, you came back with a copy of the game. We're like, what? Where'd you
get that? They sell in our local grocery store.
Yeah.
Though anyway, so I liked it that much. And then Rich and I actually played just a super tiny scenario out of it. So we enjoyed it that much. And then I have played it off and on for the last year. I mean, like a little bit of Counter-Strike with Rich, and then I kind of soloed some Race for Bastogne. And then this, I was tempted to play this, but then D-Day's coming up. So I had, things I want to do with that. So, you know how it is. But I want to keep this fresh. One reason was to keep the rules fresh, because it took me all those years to finally figure it out, and I don't want to lose it. But yeah, I definitely want to, again, like I was saying, do I want to play the full campaign? I don't know. That's another thing, but I definitely want to play more, try some of these scenarios and try some of this stuff out. So, real quick, I want to get to Perry's question here. He asked this, and we did not, there was a part of the few elements of the game we did not get to just because we didn't play long enough. How does that strategy of waiting for resupply compare to the actual German op? This is a little different than I was thinking he was asking. Did they hold back or go forward thinking resupply would be sooner than it actually came? How does the strategy of waiting for... So you're talking about the new troops coming in. Did they hold back or go forward? No. This was, at least our side, I mean, actually, I just got a book that just was published. Just came out like 2 days after we finished this game about the fight for this hill. The whole book's about the fight for this hill. And so, the Germans were fighting for the airfield quite strongly. Like I said, like he said, there's a whole ASL game about the airfield because there was just a lot of back and forth because that was huge. So no, they were definitely they knew they needed ways to get more troops in, and it wasn't going to be by pair dropping. It was by bringing them in on airplanes and eventually on ships. But the British Navy had something to say about that. So we didn't get to, so this is not OCS where supply is king, right? But there is a supply function in this campaign. Can you talk, do you know enough about, I didn't really study it enough because we didn't get that far because it came later in the game. How does that come into play? What is that?
Yeah, so I'm going from memory here, but so we played in our game. We played about the first 20 turns, which got us to midday of the 22nd of May, I think it was.
So about 2 days in.
Yeah, 2 days in. So starting the night of the 23rd. So we had another day or so to go. Starting the night of the 23rd, I think the rule book says map, but really each sector. So you got the Malami sector, you got Rethmian, you've got Heraklion.
Yep.
Each of those three sectors rolls individually for supply for each side. And based on the outcome of those rolls, there's a tracker that tracks more or less, you get into, normal supply, depleted supply, emergency supply. I forget the terms, but as that supply goes down, once it gets to a certain point, there's some, I think there's some victory condition impacts, but also it impacts troop quality. So you were talking about morale or troop quality earlier. And if it gets low enough, then it impacts some of your fire ratings. So ultimately it degrades, it has the potential to degrade your units. There's something about ports, like if the Germans control the ports, then their supply can't go down. If the Commonwealth controls a port, I think maybe not for the Commonwealth, but if the Germans control, there's something about control of airfields and ports that keeps morale from, supply from changing. But yeah, we didn't get to it.
Okay.
But it kind of falls into that Chrome category, that historical Chrome.
Yep.
There's no core supply mechanic in the series rules that are explicitly supply, like you'll find in other games. You can interpret command and dispatch points as some representation of supply, perhaps, but yeah, this was just some historical Chrome.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and so later on, there was going to be some Navy ships that the Commonwealth had to do stuff. There are some of the other optional rules is the drops. You can change where the drops are. There's some naval shore guns that the Allies can have. So there's a few little, I would say of, definitely compared to the D-Day games, the amount of special rules in this I felt are pretty manageable. I feel like it's not too bad. The terrain is a little tricky. So all these these are all orchards. It's not too bad, but they do restrict your visibility, and it gets a little, like Ty was online asking guys questions to confirm things about line of sight from observation points and all that. Some of the other games have a little bit more open, but it's a little tricky, but it's not too bad though. But the movement's pretty easy because almost everything's about the same movement for foot anyway, and some of the other movements. So it's not too hard to remember. Most of us were remembering, oh yeah, it's cost this to move through this and that. And the counter density is pretty decent too. It's not too bad. So,
yeah. I mean, there's a you definitely get kind of spoiled by Vassal and some of the things that it takes. You take it for granted maybe to some degree, but the game is pretty manageable.
Yeah,
in the physical form.
And I will say that those 7 morales certainly. Oh, this is interesting. What are you showing here? That 7 morale was not helping Ty on a lot of his assault rolls, which was funny. There's always some roll that. So Ty has to basically pass a morale check to go into assault, and there were so many times he failed it, and he started with a 7. I mean, it was crazy how. Who knows? We didn't like keep track of him again. So what are you sharing here? Here, hold on. Oh yes, this is the line of sight discussion.
Yeah, this was an early version. So I mean, Hill 107 plays naturally a really important role in the game, but if you want to take advantage of that, you kind of have to understand where it can see. So this is just I was trying to literally go through hex by hex and see what can Hill 107 what kind of unit in Hill 107. There's an observation post on that hill, and so I had to map it out because you just can't figure that out in your head on the fly, or it's difficult. So I tried to do that beforehand. But yeah, I have a history in these games, and interestingly, many of the GTS games have either the 101st Airborne, the 82nd Airborne, or some 6th Airborne, 1st Airborne for the British, and in here the Fallschirmjägers. And whenever I play airborne units, something happens. The way the units are designed in these games, airborne units, they're the elite. They have a high troop quality. They have high fire ratings. They get bonuses at night for assaulting. They have all these benefits to them. But when I play them, usually something goes wrong. In this game, it was I couldn't get these fuckers to assault. They would fail all their assault. Many of their assault rolls. Other times I've played. I played.
Oh yeah, forced marching. That is something.
I played. I think it was Where Eagles Dare with Mike a couple of years ago at Winterfest, and my force, I'm like, all right, guys, you're the elite, 7 troop quality. Let's go, force march, and they would fail.
Yeah,
a tremendous number of their rolls.
That continued.
Skinny, weak legs.
Yeah, the airborne guys don't like
units.
The airborne guys don't like Ty the commander on both the German and American side. Apparently, that's hilarious, Mike. That it happened to him there too.
Yeah.
But
that's how you're supposed to play them. Like they're not there to play nice. They're in there.
I mean, there's an 80% chance you're going to pass that roll.
Yeah,
80.
I'll take that every time. I don't care how many times I've done it. I kind of care, but I should.
I know, but you should be passing it anyway.
Yeah.
Let's see here. What else? Let me think about anything else I wanted to talk about. I mean, the fact that we're sitting here talking about it, I think that says a lot about the game, the depth of it.
Yeah.
I mean, we're sitting here talking for an hour and 40 minutes. I mean, some people have stuck on a few. We've probably put a few to sleep, but that's fine. We're awake and we're having a fun time. So who cares about them? I mean, I love you all. You're great. You're fantastic people. It's really quite a pretty game. I like the look of it.
It's well designed. I think it's really smart in the way that it did victory conditions. It's got if you read the books, whatever book you have, you're going to find probably some, you've got the Prison Valley and you've got the Hill 107 and the airfields and it's all there. It's some of the things are abstracted, of course, because that's just the nature of these games, but a lot of the stuff is still there. One of the things I was really happy to find that I thought worked really well, the airborne drops for the Germans are so spread out that it makes the use of leaders difficult. And so usually a leader will have, at least in this game, a command range of like 7, 8, 9 hexes. And that's a pretty big part of the map, but these guys are really spread out. So Joe, as part of the design, has a conf group of commanders for the Germans. And so they've got these kind of, and it's not part of the series rules. It's part of the exclusive rules in the game. So it's kind of like an ad hoc leader who can kind of fill in those gaps. And I found that really, not only really useful, but when I talked to him about it offline, he justified it from a historical perspective. I said, they actually kind of broke off certain units who went into certain parts of, he said they took a break off set of airborne units and they went and tried to accomplish this mission. And so it was kind of like a game mechanic that also had like a historical justification. I thought that was pretty nice touch.
And they did it. They have that as well for the Americans in a similar thing in Race for Bastogne, because your guys are spread the heck out over there.
Yeah.
And if you didn't, and so there's just, but it reflects well that, there was some very big command people that stood up or stepped up into the command role and defended some stuff. So, that was me, Mitch. I went a little crazy for buying books.
You did have a lot, yeah.
And
and some of them were great. Some of them were like I was flipping through them, but
they're amazing. I think this is one of the most fun ones I found. So it's like an Osprey book, but it's strictly on Australian Army campaign. So it's written from the Australian perspective. And so it's similar thing, pictures, but they just did a little bit more focus on some of the, now stuff, the organization, the weapons, some of the maps from the time. I haven't even read this one yet, but lots of great maps. Some of those really strong tanks that we had to use. So a couple of comments about here. Okay, let me give my awards for the game. The bestest GM of all time, Ty, for running the game. You did a great job keeping us in. Your enthusiasm for the game was kept us all going for sure. Not that there was a problem with that, but there was a little bit of maybe. Oh, this is a video. That's funny. Oh yeah, I guess we can see if we can. Oh, I'm not sharing my screen. That's why no one's enjoying this here. I don't even know if it'll play. I don't even know if I want it to play, but we'll see here. Oh, can you hear it?
Take a video. When was this? It looks like I see the air landing units and
yeah.
They're all in column, and then
I'd say this is
kind of pulling back a little bit. Yeah.
Not the total end, but just Oh, nice legs. That's Toby's legs. Anyway, so that was cool. We chose not to continue the game and keep it going afterwards. I think that might have been a little bit disappointing for you.
I think I was disappointed at first, and then maybe an hour later, I was like, "Yeah, I'm kind of burned out too."
it would have been.
I couldn't imagine because we had a ton more game to play, and it's like, okay, now we got to pack everything up. We're going to transfer it back to Vassal, and then we're going to do another 6 months of Vassal sessions or something.
50 turns of
I
think that I was not at that moment, and maybe that's not the right moment to ask, but it would have been a lot of work to transfer it back to Vassal. That's the one challenge there.
I think it would have been more likely. Maybe the potential alternative would be starting again, which sounds kind of crazy this soon, but thinking about how much more now, not just you, but like we all know now,
right?
That what I would do different. We'd have maybe a different number of players. We'd have different strategies. We'd know the rules better. It would, if we know what we're getting into, maybe we choose a completely different scenario, right? And maybe just focus on the main event. And
that's true.
Yeah. And you'd still get a really great experience, I think. So
I did struggle mightily with the idea of doing that defensive thing for a long time.
Yeah.
And that's personal player morale more than anything else. Why can I not advance that?
Yeah.
Anyway, so good time. So seriously, Ty, you did a great job of, keeping us going. The rules. You looked up rules, or you reached out when we needed to get clarifications. So that's fantastic. And your enthusiasm comes through, and it's why we played last year and we played this year, and who knows, maybe we'll play again next year. I think there's enthusiasm.
I enjoy playing. I also enjoy advocating for the system.
Yeah.
Right. I do, and you probably caught the brunt end of this a little bit too, where after a couple days I'm kind of burnt out on answering questions and I just want to play. But regardless, I always start things with a lot of enthusiasm. So that's got to be worth something, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Toby for support. He helped set up a lot, and he also jumped in and helped me cover. So I'd go best reinforcement there. Chris for best play aids.
Yeah.
Chris, he made counters. So there's
he did
different things. So there's some guys that can't do anything for a while for whatever reason. Some of the Commonwealth guys. So he made little counters that were a little smaller that had a little the indication, which is great because it was fantastic. Because that way I didn't just move them accidentally. Because there's a lot of things you have to kind of remember. And I think that another thing I think would be nice is that -1 on or out of command range or something would be nice to have.
Right.
Because I definitely blew that because I was some of the guys I was digging in, I totally forgot it. And basically everyone that reduces your morale by 1. It's not huge, but it is huge. Especially if it's in a critical area. So there's a few. Anyway, so Chris
he made and he was, I think if I remember correctly, he was relatively new to the system.
Oh, brand new. He was doing it for himself. But
as he was learning the game, he started making his own play aids so that he could, remember things. And they were, for whatever reason, I don't know that they're a full, I don't know if that's the right word, but robust 2.0 play aids. I guess I haven't been on Board Game Geek in a while for that kind of thing, but he made some great ones.
Yeah. Many, and he's like, oh, I'm not very good. I'm like, yeah, pretty good. He also, so he made the counters. I thought he did something else. Oh, and he just was, he was very positive and confident about the whole game and stuff. He was a good teammate to have because he just stayed positive about it, because it's easy to, like I said, and you get tired, you get kind of morale. He was always real up. So that was good. So I think I'd say an award for that. Matt for being a great, he was my neighbor to my left, and he was a great neighbor to have to kind of talk through things because he and I did not play against each other at all because he was on the other map. But he also a good enthusiasm for the game. Oh, he was the best seat neighbor and accessory salesman. So because of him, I bought some new tweezers and the little suction cup thing that sucks up your top counter. So he was.
Oh, did he have the suction cup, or is that?
Well, I'm pretty sure it was him, or was it Chris? Well, whatever.
I didn't remember if someone used it at our table or not.
I gave Matt the credit for it. They had it at the ASL table.
Okay, yeah.
And then Rich for the best burn. It's gonna maybe not be as funny to anyone else, but do you remember what? A little
bit of inside baseball.
Yeah, but it was about assaulting.
Yeah. So what happened? I assaulted some of your guys.
Correct.
And basically, so, God, this is so far inside. But anyway, there are 2 rounds in a typical assault, and often in the first round, you'll fire. You'll just shoot up each other, right? And the second round, the attacker, that's usually when he'll decide whether he wants to continue shooting or he wants to charge. And if he charges, it's kind of high risk, high reward. If he charges and fails, that's the end. If he charges and succeeds, the other guy's just straight out eliminated, right? And I get the long story short is I made the wrong choice about charging, and Rich said, "Well, you should just write an article about assaults, or you should write." He said, "You should write an article about assaults." And in fact, I did. It's in the magazine, and I pulled out the magazine, and I basically ignored my own advice, I guess.
Yeah.
And
he looked at. He even read it to us.
The timing was so perfect.
It was amazing. We were all just like, "Holy mackerel!"
Yeah.
And Ty pulled the magazine out and read the section that said what to do, and Ty basically just said, "Screw that guy. What's this guy know?" And
that guy's an idiot. Why would I listen to him?
Yep.
And I did the exact opposite of what. But I mean, to my credit, at least the article's right. I think.
Well,
it's still, but I learned, and next time I basically forgot. Yeah, I should have. I mean, the point is that you were really low on command points and had a really low troop quality, so you would have had to make a really difficult roll.
Yeah.
To keep from being eliminated, and I missed that opportunity. So anyway, not so smart after all, I guess.
Yeah, that was a good one. So Rich wins the award.
He wins the con for that one.
The con, yeah.
We laughed really hard at that. That was great.
A good time. I would, I do want to play part of this again at least. I don't know if anyway, right now it's some part of it. Definitely want to keep GTS coming. Oh, I did want to tell people. So I went on MMP site. So Operation Mercury is still available. I will tell you, it seems to go on sale often. It's $189. I see it for sale. You can get it cheaper than that, but it's for sale on MMP. I probably should just say go to MMP and buy it. Race for Bastogne is available.
Yep.
The Greatest
Day. I
haven't
played that much. I started clipping that, but I haven't played Race at all, really.
Yeah, and I played a little bit of that. So the Greatest Day Sword Juno Gold is available in both bagged and boxed version. And of course we talked. I can't imagine that. And of course the Devil's Cauldron and sort of weird because they're up for reorder. Oh, I'm sorry. No Question of Surrender, which is a 1.1 series rule that kind of gets a little bit of a short shrift. It's 1.1, so it's usually the older rules, which there's a little bit of a hurdle there. So it's not super simple. I haven't done it yet, and I was maybe Ty and I might do it at some point so I can just see a little Where Eagles Dare or something. But that's what we talked about early. Joe's working on getting those two, not No Question for Surrender, but the two Arnhem. Well, the first Arnhem game, Devil's Cauldron, updated 2.0, and eventually the Where Eagles Dare, which is the 30 Corps and U.S. Airborne, Southern Airborne going. Race for Bastogne is interesting. So I think Operation Mercury is pretty decent as a game to have and play because I feel like the rules are minimal, but really the best one I think is probably Strike Counter Strike for $70. Again, you can find it for a little less than that some places. It comes with a magazine and it's everything's on one map. Because to me, one of the intimidating things for this game is all the charts and all the sleds or whatever with all the command points. You got to set all this up. And I just was like, that's just one of the things I struggle with to go. This is all on one map. Everything's on that one thing. So you don't have to worry about all that. It's there, set it up and play it on one map. And it seems like it's a pretty cool battle that plays out pretty well. I have not done very much at Rich and I just played a little bit of it. So the games are available, which is cool. That's not the case with a lot of games. Sometimes they're not always available. Let's talk about Utah real quick. Utah, they sent out a note saying that they're going to announce final pre-order orders a couple weeks. They're starting to get Pete's and Parses. You play tested and have proofed some things. So any comments about it? You talked about the number of scenario books and some other things.
Yes. I mean, I've done some play testing. I edited or did some, I guess I couldn't really call it proofreading, the exclusive rules. And it's been a long time. It's a huge game. It appears to be as dense as Sword Juno Gold. I mean, you were talking about, Operation Mercury overall. You liked it. We're happy playing it. Sword Juno Gold is a freaking dense. It's a great game. It's freaking dense. If you want to play that full campaign, I often tell the story. I played the full campaign from scratch at ComSim World. 6 of us. We probably could have used a 7th maybe an 8th player, but 7. We could have used 7. We had 6 players, a little bit shorthanded. 6 experienced GTS players played for an entire week from, whatever, morning to night. And we got through 2 days of a 7-day campaign. So Sword Juno, and that's with the parallel pathing of the multiple cups. I mean, it is a freaking, the campaign game it's great. I love it. We'll play it again, a drop of a hat. So with Utah, I mean, it is the monster of monsters, right? I mean, these are Mercury is, I think, a manageable, I don't want to call it bite size. It's still a monster game when you have it all set up, but it's a reasonable campaign. I would say Sword Juno Gold, it's not that it's unplayable. The question is it unfinishable, right? Like truly, night of June 5th to end turn June 12th or whatever the last day of that campaign is. That is a freaking monster. And I expect the full Utah game is going to be the same, but I think I said too much on that. What I should have led with is Utah starts with Tom Holliday, the designer, who had a tremendous amount of dedication and passion and patience and attention to detail and historical knowledge and military understanding. Like, I can't think of a better designer for this game than Tom. And to my knowledge, I don't think Tom's ever designed a game before, but he's, very familiar with the GTS system. Mike Curtis will remind me. I can't remember if it's Tom's father or grandfather was in the 82nd Airborne for D-Day, so he landed, as part of this operation, and so he's got a personal passion, but also has a real considerate mind for designing the game. And I have to, yes, 82nd Airborne is its grandfather, it was probably around St. Marigny or Caratan or something like that. And my play testing, it showed me it has all of those historical touches that I look for. It's got that right scale. And I'll be honest with you, I mean, there were some design decisions that Tom made that if I say I disagreed with them, I think that makes it sound like I think it was a mistake. It's not that at all. It's just like, I don't know if I would have done it that way, but it's not my game and it's not my design. I'm just a fan of the system who wants to see more games show up. And if I can help in any way, not everything needs to go my way. I'm cool with that. But if this isn't, no one half-assed this game. I mean, it's all there, and that's why it took so long. Mike's saying there's a lot of great scenarios.
Well, how many scenario books are there?
From the components I've seen, it looks like there's going to be 3 scenario books.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and I don't. Maybe there are 3 smaller. I mean, if you hold the Sword Juno Gold scenario book in your hands, it's pretty hefty. And this is probably a little bit more than that. They just broke it into different sections, but we'll see all that in a couple of weeks. But it's 16 counter sheets. It's, I forget how many maps, 5.5, 6.5 maps. But it is the grand tactical system. The game shines, in my view, at the grand level, the monster level. There are tons of smaller scenarios and introductory scenarios and all of that, but I'm here for the big shebang, and I think it's going to deliver. I'm excited about it. It's a long time coming, but we're almost there. And it cost a lot of money. It's a pretty penny, but you get a ton, and so I hope I expect people are going to enjoy it, and then. We'll let Tom catch his breath, and then we'll start bugging him about Omaha.
Yeah, Omaha will be interesting.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, so like this is why people I like games like this. I want to see Caratan and the lay of the land and where it is and why it's important. And yeah.
And if you played Sword Juno Gold and you thought oh yeah, I remember those hedgerows and that bocage, it is, I don't know, to the 10th power on Utah. It is something else to work through the bocage.
Yeah, it'll be wild.
What's that, Mike? You're play testing. What do you play test? Is there an Italy game in the works, or are you playing in Italy? Is that for Omaha, or is that for something else?
Yeah, that's interesting. Tell us more.
Scoop.
I wonder if I could get Tom on here to talk about. I would be super curious about how they rate units, how they just kind of his process would be fascinating.
I mean, I can put you in touch with him, of course, if you don't have contact. But he's done interviews earlier on. Italy game. I didn't know about that. Nice. So yeah, it might be nuts with him coming out. It might be nice to get his thoughts on it.
I would probably have you and or Mike or a couple other people on with just to talk to him, because that would be cool. Because to me, the design of something like this is just blows my mind. I've tried working on a small design on a miniature game, and it just blew me out. I'm like, and that's like a miniature game. So, I mean,
this is a it's a process. I can't imagine doing it on this scale, or if at all. And maybe side note. So I think people who especially play MMP games, they get kind of fixated on, and I don't want, it sounds too negative. Like there's a lot of questions around who's the head honcho for this game, or who's running OCS, or who's running BCS, or you had Dean who was running all the gamer or many of the gamer games, and Carl Fung, and you could point to one guy in a sense who's in charge. Tom and Joe Chacon are in contact a lot. So when it comes to like game changes or game rules, or like, hey, I'm thinking about doing something a certain way, they talk to each other. It's not like they're not like running off and doing their own thing. And so in addition to the setting, the Utah setting, and the passion and knowledge that Tom brings to that scenario, that situation, he also demonstrated to me a really high regard for being considered about changes or additions or clarifications, or it wasn't just I'm going to slap stuff on. Like he thought about things. He really listened to playtesters. I always felt that my feedback was listened to, and so one of my better playtesting experiences, although very, very lengthy, which I think is what we want as customers. But it wasn't. We played a couple things a couple times. These things got played again and again, and at the end of the day, it's Tom's decision on what's going to end up in the box for the most part, at least from a scenario and how things are going to run. But we were definitely listened to, and that was very, very much appreciated.
Okay, I have two questions, and we'll let you go and everyone else go. Okay, and I kind of asked this: how would you rank the GTS games right now for enjoyment, or things you like, ones you'd pull out first or over the other? So,
well, you had just bought Devil's Cauldron, and we talked about maybe playing a side game of that. We didn't get to it, but it did get me to get my boxes out and start poking around.
Okay.
I think I said at the beginning of this that Where Eagles Dare is my favorite game, game, full stop, GTS or otherwise. So, and my flat out favorite gaming experiences is Cauldron and Where Eagles Dare. Like that is the pinnacle of wargaming for me. Like that's the experience that I want. And so I guess those are, even though I haven't played them probably in a couple of years, those are still some ones that I'd return to again and again. I've never run first airborne in Cauldron, so I'd like to do that sometime. And that's kind of one of the neat things about these. Another neat thing about these games is that the big campaigns, there are so many different commands. You can say, "Oh, I played Where Eagles Dare." Well, there's I don't know, 4 different commands that you could take on, and so there's a lot of replayability through trying different strategies, but also replayability through trying different commands. But yeah, those 2 are at the top. Sword Juno Gold is probably my second, and I've still got a lot of things that I'd like to do with that game. I'd have to put Bestone and Strike Counter-Strike from the magazine kind of out of the picture because I haven't played them all that much.
Okay.
Crete, I guess, is after, but it still ranks very, very highly for me. And what's left? No Question to Surrender.
Yeah, that poor game. The poor game.
I think that's an easy one that gets dismissed simply because it's a little bit of an oddball. But I don't, it's been a number of years since I played it seriously, but it's not a bad game. It's just not one that I'm racing out to return to. But every once in a while I get it out. It's also got, we kind of focus on the magazine game because of its small size.
Yeah.
No Question to Surrender is kind of in the same boat. I mean, the magazine benefits because it's got, my flawed assault article aside, it's got a lot of great articles from other guys who can help new players. But No Question to Surrender, if you don't mind playing a little bit older rule set, is a fair scale. If you don't want to, you can get smaller scenarios in the big boxes. You can spend $250 and then play single map scenarios, or you can spend $70, $80 on No Question to Surrender and play a small scenario too, if that's what you want.
Yeah, it is a nice. I mean, the size. I mean, that's a struggle, right? I mean, like this game's gonna be Utah is gonna be $300 and some if you wait and you buy a pure retail. Now, of course, we always advise to wait and find deals, but that's a lot of money. You're trying to encourage someone, hey, you should play this cool system. Here, 330. It's like you're asking someone to join ASL crew. Yeah. I mean, it's like, holy crap, dude. And you don't even know if you're gonna like it. And I agree with you that, I mean, the game obviously shines in the big. I mean, that's the whole point. Right. But if there's ways to introduce people like that magazine game, I feel like I want to introduce people with that a lot.
If you're entirely new to the system and you want to drive, well, I think the worst thing is, and I've seen this happen with some players where they buy Sword Juno Gold. They just spent $250. They play the beach landing scenarios, which are just little maps, and then they play, 1 or 2 single map scenarios because that's all they can fit on their table.
Yep. Right.
Which could be true, but then that forms their opinion of the game in the series. When really, I get it from a designer perspective. You want to include those scenarios because people want them and expect them, and some of them are really good. Some of the smaller scenarios are really good. Some of them also run the risk of, like, you take this grand series of rules and you try to cram it into a small map. Some of the cracks, I think, start to show. And if that's what's informing your opinion of the series, which I think can happen in some case, it's like, well, you kind of missed out on the best parts of it and what it's really designed to do. And it's a tough, it's real. It's all, I mean, you gotta be realistic. Not everybody can play. Even we didn't finish the Operation Mercury campaign.
Yeah. Right.
And we played it for a week, and before the con too. So, Mike Curtis, he's got his favorite games up there, and I don't know that I'm ready to put Utah at the top. But
I know, I was wondering about that.
But he did a lot more playtesting than I did.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just the fact there's so many scenarios and there's just so much game there.
Yeah.
I guess that as a sales pitch, and then my last question for you, you want to start thinking about this while I'm doing my sales pitch for GTS. I'm curious what battles you'd like to see, if there's any ones you'd like to see. So, I mean, I have really been enamored with the GCACW, GC, Great Campaigns of the American Civil War System. Yeah. I'm not a Civil War guy. My channel is called Plays World War II. But it is my ACW system, and it has almost ruined me for World War II games because of the randomness and the crazy crap that happens and the fun, just bonker stuff.
Okay.
Well, so GTS, one thing I really like about it is I love chit. I really like chit pull, and I think this incorporates chit pull in a cool way in that you can influence what chits are in there to some degree. And, you know, even when you're playing those small scenarios, that chip pull, well, depending on how many chits you have, that's where it can be. That's going to change the game, and it's going to change up how it is and how it's going to turn out. And like we play this campaign again, how they fall make a huge difference with artillery and just all kinds of stuff, and like getting suppressions off versus not, and whatever. So there's randomness, but I feel like it's randomness that's controlled. And if you're a good player, and you've probably seen this, and like, you know, you're a good player, but good players can work around all those hurdles, right? It's like, it's not, and like the random events are cool, but they're not game breaking and that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of the fun stuff about, and then the details, of course, are amazing. All right. So battles,
it's chip pull, but the chip pull system has depth. Some chip pulls games that I've seen, it's just kind of like, who goes next?
And that's, and I've got some of those, and those are fun. But yeah, that I do wish when I have that, like, oh man, I'd love to be able to buy some of these.
In GTS, there's different kind of chits. And the chits do different things, and the order really can impact things. And so it's interesting.
Well, I just got to throw this up there. Yeah. Okay. So, and Mike, please, and Perry, whoever else plays GTS, please list this up here. Battles you'd like to see. I've got some ideas. I don't know if they'd be good GTS battles, but I've got some. So, what's anything come top of mind? Like, oh, I'd love to see that.
Yeah. So I played Brazen Chariots for BCS, and I thought that was really well done. And so that made me think that maybe there could be some North Africa. First of all, I don't know like every nook and cranny battle of World War II. So I don't know if there's anything that had come up with that hasn't already been done
to death
with other systems, right? But I think GTS has the potential to be really good in North Africa.
Seems like it.
Maybe it was you, but somebody was mentioning like Case Yellow, France 40 kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's me.
I think that'd be really kind of interesting. I've learned more about that. I'd like to see East Front. I don't know what that would be.
I mean, the game system started on the East Front. Panzer Command.
That's right. Yeah.
That's the origin of it.
Was that, but in what, do you know what scenarios they were using? They used in that game?
I bet someone here knows. I want to say, I don't know, Smolensk or something. I feel like it was a little earlier, but I don't know. But I think,
like I said, whatever it needs to be. Like, I think some people bring up Stalingrad, and when I think of Stalingrad, I think like in the city. I don't know if that would be good, but anything where I think at the grand scale, you've got to have some level of maneuverability, because even if it's even though it's a quote tactical game or tactical series, it's not. You got to have room to move around, because if you're just, and I've seen this in some of the scenarios in the games, if it's just you've got a confined space and the counters come together and they just shoot. It's not. You got to have some maneuverability. I don't know if you have that in Stalingrad, but you do have some of it, like Kursk or something. You know, like how Joe took Battle of the Bulge and took a slice of it. Maybe there's a slice of Kursk or something that could be done. That would be interesting. I think kind of a big cool armor battle, or I don't know, but that's
the East. I think the East Front, which I'm not super familiar with. But yes, a couple things. The East Front is got a huge. I mean, it's all about maneuver, and it's all about doing stuff. So there are so many battles you could do from early war to late war. I mean, there's a ton you could do. Like the BCS did. Panzer's Last Stand, which I don't really know that part of the battles, but it's late war coming into Hungary and Budapest, and so some guys that I know that they're not GTS freaks, but they like GTS, but the GTS game they like is the Arnhem game, and they like the way that it models it, and that's somewhat of there's a lot of fighting in the city. I mean, you play
it's pretty tight.
So it's not Stalingrad, but it also is and I would be interested to see what that's like, because they said that's the best Arnhem experience they had, and if they were to play a game about Arnhem, they would play GTS that, which is that says a lot about that. Yeah, I mean Stalingrad, I don't know, but the approaches to Stalingrad, the retreat from Stalingrad, the relief of it, trying to get in there and get sixth out. I mean, there's so many things you could do. But I think early war would be really cool because Eris, the Somme, Dinant, because those little tanks are so cool. I mean, the lighter tanks, I should say, not little, the lighter. And the command and control thing, like the French, that would be interesting because, that was the biggest struggle with that, is their command and control blue. I think some of the Sicily stuff could be fun. Maybe, not the whole island thing, but some pelts of that. Desert would be, I'm not a desert guy, but I think you're right. I was thinking of Brazen Chariots and Tunisia, Kasserine, I don't know. Cobra and Filet. I don't know why you couldn't do, especially Cobra, maybe not Filet so much. Filet would be I almost see Filet being in a magazine game. Yeah, and they didn't even do all of Battle of the Bulge. They just did the Race for Bastogne, which maybe that's the most, maybe that's why, because that's the best part of the battle.
So until Mike earlier had mentioned something about Italy, in the works or in the consideration set, or somebody's thinking about it, or something's designing for it. Like we can come up with all the ideas that we've just talked about. We need designers to bring them.
And I know, and this system and
maybe I'm overstating what other series, it'd be interesting to take BCS and when last Blitzkrieg came out, and now they're up to what, 5 or 6 games. And then in that same time, how many have come out for GTS? And the reason I bring that up, not that they're necessarily comparable in terms of grandness and size, but those are two systems that I really like to play.
Yeah, some people compare them because there's some similarities. The scale's a little different, but
there's scales a little bit different. The feeling, the command and control, I get a lot that planning aspect that I talked about. I get a lot of that feeling in BCS too. It's really? I know I'm going to send these guys over here and do something.
Yeah, no.
Now I have plenty of GTS that I still need to get to in these games because they're so big. But after Utah comes out in a couple weeks, we may not see another game for years because I don't think anything's designed. And then clearly I don't know everything that's going on, but it's going to be years before Omaha comes out. If somebody's working on Italy, it's going to be years before that. Joe's put aside Guadalcanal so he can work on Weird Eagles or Cauldron. So I don't need to spend another $250 right now or $300 or whatever it is. But that's okay because I don't think there's going to be anything to buy.
Right. Well, I mean, nothing wrong with playing the games we've got.
That is true. Play what you have, and I do like to go deep with these games too because there is a lot there. It just takes a while to get through, and you get distracted on other things, and
sure,
you go play ASL or you go play GCAW. But there's a lot that could be done with the systems and other settings. I mentioned this at the con. I think there is if someone were motivated, they could design new scenarios for the Sword Juno Gold game and use many of the same components and maps. Because I think, especially around con, I think there was some activity. I don't know if they'd be good, if they're good scenarios, but I think there's some potential there of I'll call it a supplement.
You've got a lot of the units that are there. Yeah. If you need to design a few extra units, I have thought of that, and that one, and the market garden. There's so many battles that are there that you could, like, again, if you want to have some smaller ones, I think that's the complaint about some of those earlier games. There weren't as many small ones. Well, you could certainly do that in a little, like you said, a supplement, add some new units and a couple improved play aids, and boom. As the British say, Bob is your uncle. Okay, Ty, we've talked a long time here. I appreciate the time, but I'm sure your friends are jealous when they said, "Hey, what are you doing this Friday?" And like, hey, I'm going to go talk to a nerd online about a game for 2.5 hours.
I would. What, you want me to talk about GTS until I'm blue in the face? I'll be there.
I'm there. All right. So
no, I enjoyed. This is fun. I enjoy talking about it. It's a system I love. And I had a lot of fun with you guys at the con, and we have to decide what we're going to do next.
I know, next year.
We don't have to wait till next May to do it. We can do something in between.
No, that's weird. Now you're talking weird. All right. So, all right, everybody, thanks a lot for jumping on. Mike, Mike, I would like to get maybe the four of us, Mike, Ty, and Tom on here. Mm-hmm. Joe would also be a good one to talk to too, because he's going to have a different perspective, but little panel there. We could ask questions and talk to Tom, especially I'd say after it's out, and then so he can show everything, right? Show stuff. And there's no, it shouldn't be a secret now. It's coming out in 2 weeks. But anyway, thank you all. Ty, thank you so much for the time. Thanks for leading the charge on the game. And it was a good time. Yeah. And thanks to all the other players.
Thanks everybody.
And we'll all talk to you next time. We'll see you.